All right, officially welcome everybody to week 8 of World War II Heroes in Literature. I'm so excited to talk about one of my heroes that was sort of, to me, I didn't know very much about him until I read a book about him several years ago, and then I just was fascinated at the selflessness and the interesting character of Oskar Schindler. I'm excited to also talk about Leon Layson and the experiences that he went through as he encountered all of the different hardships that he did, and talk about his experience with his friends, with his family, and all the things he was going through. It's going to be a great class. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen as I always do, and go through what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah,
Adjust
use the
some things. All right, is my screen sharing? Excellent. Welcome to this. Okay, for today, we'll start off. I have a couple of thoughts that I wanted to talk about and hit on at the very beginning of class. Things that I didn't want too much time to go past through the discussion before I bring them up. So I'm just going to talk about them right up front. Two things about first friends and second family, and just the example that we can find here about both throughout this story. They're both things that a couple of you or a few of you have picked up on, and also made comments on your favorite things about friends and family and things like that. So I want to talk about those up front. Then we'll talk a little bit about Oskar Schindler. Was he a hero? Thumbs up, thumbs down. He's an interesting character, probably the exact person for the exact job that he did, even though maybe some of his character traits would not have been very good for him or other people in a totally different, in any other situation, but perfect, exact person for that job at that time. We'll talk a little bit more about Oskar Schindler. We'll talk about a few of our favorite things. And then also just a reminder, there is no class next week. I believe it's for every single Well-Educated Heart Academy class. Those of you who have classes on Monday, check the schedule. I'm not sure about Mondays because those are sort of different. And so anyway,
Monday classes are on.
Monday classes are on. So you have Tuesday for the rest of the week off. If you only have this class, you have the whole week off. My Thursday class is also off next week. So I hope that you enjoy the week off. In 2 weeks. So I'm going to release the homework for our next class, which is 2 weeks away. I'm going to release it today, so that you can pick whatever time you want to work on it and then have a week off. You can get it done right away and then take time until until our next class. And if you do that, please brush up on the stuff, maybe a half hour before class to refresh your mind so that we can have discussions about it. But if you want to take a week off now and then start up next week, so this week would be your week off of the class, really whatever you want to do, I'm going to release the homework today so that you can make that choice and decide when you want to finish the homework for our next class. Our next homework will be finishing up The Boy on the Wooden Box, and then we'll read parts 1 and 2 of Beyond Courage. Beyond Courage is not necessarily kind of the kind of book that we've been talking about. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's sort of short stories and has a lot of pictures, a lot of just little anecdotes, little things that happened, sort of a page about one person, page about another person, couple pages about a group. And so it's the untold story of Jewish resistance during the Holocaust. I think one thing that a few of you mentioned in your favorite things is you liked how some of the Jewish people, even though they were being put in the ghetto and put in these concentration camps, they found subtle ways to sort of take back some of the power. Like Leon or Lieb mentioned taking off his armband and going and sitting on a park bench in the sun, knowing that he was breaking a rule, but no one around him who didn't know who he was, no one knew, and so he felt like that was sort of taking back some of his power. And so this book that we're going to read focuses on a lot of short stories, a lot of people, just, little excerpts or tidbits about certain people who did acts of resistance in various places throughout the war. And so it's sort of inspiring them taking back their power, knowing their one act is probably not going to change the tide of the war, but it gives them a sense of pride and takes back some of their power in the harsh circumstances that they're thrust into. Um, and the supplemental content, sorry, I've got the supplemental content will be more about Lieb Leeson. He lived for a long time, and he gave a lot of. I think he has passed away. I forgot to look that up. But he gave a number of interviews, and so it's interesting to hear him. Sorry, what's that?
Put them on your plate and take them.
Oh,
Sorry, next to you.
I'll mute. All right.
Oh,
Oh, we're playing mute. Let's see. Not sure what happened. I think I pushed mute and then they pushed mute to unmute themselves. Well, anyway. All right. Anyway, more about him. He gave some interviews, gave some talks, and so we'll learn a little bit more about him and hear his voice telling the stories, which I think is powerful. And then we're going to learn about some of the heroes from Beyond Courage and other Holocaust survivors, other people who were on Schindler's List, other people who had circumstances that was able to help them push through all of the bad things that are going on around them. Just inspirational stories. Part of the homework that I'll assign is going to be sort of a form of, according to my research, but what I'm hoping is, and I'll put this information in our homework, is we're going to learn about a lot of people and just a little bit about those people. And so the according to my research is going to take sort of a twist. And I want you, as you're reading through, to find one person and then go and do a little bit of a deeper dive on that person's story, find out more. Books like this, they give us sort of the summary version of the story. I'm going to encourage you to go and find more details about their story and what they did and what they had, the things that they did, and then tell us about it. And so that will be the homework that's due in 2 weeks when we meet again. You'll have 2 weeks to do it. So either do it now and then have a whole week off, or wait a week and then pick it up as next week. Up to you. Sorry. Should have had water by my side or something. Again, next week, no class. Office hours will be tomorrow night, normal time. All right. So I wanted to start off our class today having a discussion about friends and what friends are. Okay, someone just sent me a message. Leon died in 2013. That's what I thought. I didn't know the year. I thought he had passed away. I wasn't sure. He did pass away in 2013, but we have interviews and things that I'll share with you for our homework next week. But I wanted to talk about friends. This part hit me hard, and I think as growing up, that how difficult it must have been to experience this. The whole world sort of crumbling around you. You feel the war coming on. You start feeling the effects of the way the Germans are treating the Jews in Germany. It's starting to kind of spread into your own country, and then suddenly the Germans are taking over your country. They're taking over your city. And this part would have been, I think, especially difficult for someone, really for any time in your life. But I think having your close friendships of people that you're hanging out with and doing things all the time with. So gradually the boys with whom I shared so many adventures, who had never cared that I was Jewish, started ignoring me. They began muttering nasty words when I was near, and finally the cruelest of my one-time friends told me that they would never again be seen playing with a Jew. So I want to ask, how do you think it felt for Leon when his friends began to turn away from him with all of this happening? How would that have felt? Arya, go ahead.
I think that he probably was really surprised, like the floor had been like kicked out from underneath him, because I don't think he was expecting his friends to turn on him like this just because of his religion. So it was probably a big shocker to him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that you could have expected that they would do the opposite, right? We're friends, you know me. Like we're pals. We hang out. We have all these adventures. I think you're right. That I like the analogy kicking the floor out from under him. I think that's very appropriate. Yeah, Harrison, go ahead.
I was just thinking how weird it was. Just that like they could feel so powerfully about it, even though they were so young. Um, I like I have a couple little sisters, and it's like they get in arguments with their friends sometimes, and it's funny because they like it doesn't really mean anything to them a day later. Um, but how like shocking would it be for the people who didn't care about one thing to just turn against you um, because of what their parents thought? It's just like it feel like a slap in the face after getting treated by the adults like that, and then to be treated by your friends like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I I think that that's a very accurate description of how I would have felt too. Lincoln, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I also have some younger sisters, and instead of arguing with friends, they argue with themselves a lot. Um, I have two of them, and I feel like they're arguing half the day, but uh, but yeah, I agree. It'd feel like a betrayal. But I've also been through something similar. Because back when we were living at Star, which is a pretty small town near Nampa, uh, I had this friend who had been just living across the street. Well, and I had looked up to him, and we had had fun periodically, and had hung out some. But he had had this other friend who was also one of our neighbors. And then they moved, and when this friend I had came back, I'd been naturally super pumped because I had missed him a lot. But then he went with this other friend to go do stuff without me, and it just, yeah, it was not a very good feeling.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That must have been difficult to go through. I think that's hard, right? And it hurts, and it's hard to understand why and not to be able to just, I mean, to think like, okay, our friendship should have overcome that, right? We were close enough that we should be able to see past that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I'm sorry that you went through that, Lincoln. That stinks. I mean, I think it's interesting, like we can take those kinds of experiences and make sure when we're on the other side that we don't leave other people out, right? That we make sure that they feel loved and included and part of the group. I think it could have just taken one of those boys to just be like, "Hey, I know all this stuff's going on around us. I still like you." Like that would have made the whole world of difference, right? Um, yeah, that's tough. It's hard dealing with that kind of thing.
Yeah. And as I thought back on it, I've realized he wasn't actually like, we weren't friends per se. He was just hanging out with me because I was there. But when it came to he had only a few hours to visit, he picked Jackson, the other kid, over me because they were actually friends.
Yeah, I mean, still, it doesn't make it. I mean, that helps. It still hurts. Thanks for sharing that. That would have been tough. Thanks. Owen, go ahead.
Um, I just think that like those guys are so shallow, kind of, because like it didn't matter, but when it started mattering, what mattered, when it mattered, and happened, they just like turned. I mean, like I get that you get in trouble for helping them, but like calling him dirty names and stuff, like I don't think, like, I feel like they judged him wrongly, and just we should never do that to people, because other people, I think they gave into peer pressure because of like the Germans were here, and like it was dangerous to do that. But I still think they should have at least like not said those things to him.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. And thank you. I think that there are different levels of things, and a few of them took it to the extreme that made it even worse. I agree. Aubrey, go ahead.
Also like he was like super young when all this would happen, like all this started, and like he probably like didn't even fully understand why it was happening. And he's like, oh, everyone's just like not like wanting to hang out with me anymore. And like he probably like couldn't like grasp why and stuff. So that would probably be like super frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this could have been one of the first instances where the war really affected him personally and directly, right? Like he had heard all these things, it was in the news, people were talking about it. It made sort of the area stressful, but I think that this might have been one of the first few things that truly changed his life and made him feel, okay, this is going to be something that affects me directly. Yeah, that'd be tough, especially at that age. I mean, and we say young, right? But a number of you are this age, and so you can put yourself exactly in his shoes because you are wearing his shoes, right? Like it would be so difficult. All right, two more comments, and I'm going to move on to the next couple of questions. Aria, go ahead.
But I think that we can judge Leon's friends as harshly as we want, but also, I mean, they were kids, and they were like the Nazi Party wanted everyone to believe that the Jews were this terrible, terrible group of people, and so all like the schools and all the restrictions against Jews and the terrible posters all probably kind of just influenced how they thought about Jews. And I mean, maybe like in this day and age, if something like that happened, I bet a lot of us would be influenced like they were too, just because, just kind of going with what everyone else thinks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that insight. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Justice, go ahead.
One of the things I was thinking is that some of those boys, like his friends that were not being nice to him, I guess, everybody around them, like I guess in their minds, they're true friends, like non-Jew friends, I guess. Everybody was thinking, oh, Jews are bad, and everybody just kind of joins that mob-like, I guess, kind of like a mob, I guess, of like just attitude of just kind of, I don't know, just hating the Jews, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I really appreciate both of your insights and kind of putting ourselves in the friend's shoes, right? I mean, there was so much going on, so many things in their culture, so many things going on the street, on the radio, at home, everywhere. And so I think that there is sort of this mob mentality that they maybe out of self-preservation, maybe there are a lot of different things, but these are kids. I mean, we're talking about Leon's age, but so were the friends. The friends weren't perfect. I'm still working on being a better friend, and I'm like old. It's something that we're all working on, something that we all need to work on throughout our whole lives. None of us are perfect. None of us get it right every time. Maybe sometimes we get things right more often, and hopefully as we live our life and as we have experiences, we can look beyond things that might cause us to sort of judge or wonder or, start maybe treating someone differently because of something that they did or said or things like that. I've been trying to think about how does this relate to my life, or how can we relate to it? And I just think we don't have things going on exactly like what they were back in Poland. Um, but sometimes we have friends that we might have a standard, right? You and I, we might hold ourselves to a particular standard. We might have friends that hold themselves to the same standard. And because they're imperfect, they might make a mistake. They might make choices that go against our moral standard. They might make choices that we might feel judgment by, right? How could you decide? How could you do that? How could you let yourself do this or that? Um, and so I think that we can learn from this example. We can learn from these friends. We can learn from Leon's experience, or Leib's experience, and the way that his friends treated him, to make sure that we don't do that when other people are going through a difficult time or going through a hard time. So my other questions were, what is true friendship based on convenience or popularity? What makes a real friend, and what does it look like to love a friend who's made a bad choice? And we don't have to, if one of our friends has made a bad choice, we don't have to be so supportive of the choice that they've made, right? But we don't have to approve of their actions, as I have in the slide, but we should care enough to help them through it, to help them know that we still love them, even though these things are going on. It would have just taken, I think, one friend for Leon to just be like, hey, man, I don't like what's going on. I'm so sorry that this is happening. I still love you. You're still my friend. Even though they're probably not going to play together, right? It still would have been nice to have someone reach out to him and tell him that. So I want to ask you guys, what does true friendship look like? What makes a real friend? And then how can we support other people who might be making choices, or who might be in situations or circumstances that aren't maybe ideal for what we think? Finn, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Well, I just kind of wanted to add on to what Harrison and Arya said.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the reason they turned away was because they were influenced by their parents, maybe, and then also they'd probably seen how cruel the Nazis were, and didn't want anything happening to their family because they were friends with a Jew.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, think there is a lot of self-preservation happening in all respects at that time. It was, I think it would have been a pretty scary time to be alive and not knowing what's happening, not knowing
Yeah.
what are the consequences of my actions. I think in normal society, we normally know, if I do this, then this could happen. If I do that, then that could happen. And I think at that time, people probably weren't fully sure what happens if I do this. What's going to be the result? And I think that the default was going back to that sort of mob mentality of, well, if I'm in the big group, they're not going to come after me. And so I think this is probably the easy way. Yeah. What do you guys think real friendship looks like? What does it mean to you to be a true friend, or to have a true friend? What could we learn from this experience that we read about to make ourselves a better friend for those around us? Arya, go ahead.
I think that being a true friend means that you're supportive of the other person's journey on this earth, and you understand that they're not always going to make the best choices, and they understand that you're not going to always make the best choices because we're human, but that doesn't influence the power of that friendship. And being a true friend means that you're loyal and that you're able to look past physical appearances or religion or things like that and see who they really are and their like who their character is instead of just
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I think it's so important to look at their true character and truly love them. I think I have a friend here in Portugal that I met at church, and we would have him over for lunch all the time after church. So he would come home from church with us. We'd give him a ride home, and he'd stop at our house and we'd eat lunch. And then he decided he didn't want to go to church anymore. And that hurt because that was a big part of our friendship, and that's where I saw him. And so we would eat lunch. And so it's interesting. I think it has been important for me to continue to reach out to him and still be his friend, still talk about what's going on in his life and with his work and things like that, even though the one thing that connected us in the first place has sort of gone away. Or, I mean, the church is still there, right? But that part of our relationship isn't so much anymore. Even though I hope it will be someday again, because I care about him and I think that's important. But I think it's important for us to love people no matter what the choices. I mean, love them no matter what their choices are, even if we might not approve of the choice, even though we think maybe this would be better for them, still loving them and supporting them. Yeah. Harrison, go ahead.
Okay, so first, I just wanted to say, Lincoln, I lived in Star, Idaho for like 4 years, and I had three Jacksons in one of my classes. I used to not be homeschooled, so I just thought that was funny. Funny coincidence. Um, I wanted to just like a friend is somebody that you trust. Um, I don't think a friendship should be changed by something that they have no control over. You don't get to decide what color skin you are or what hairstyle, what color hair you have. It's already been decided, and so you shouldn't judge people by what has happened to them that they have no control over. I think also that we are influenced a lot by our parents' choices, and that also doesn't make us a bad person. And so I would just focusing on like who your friend actually is, and just wanting to help them for what they've done, not what somebody else has done.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I loved the friendship is built on trust. I think that's so important. So important to just acknowledge the friendship, right? No matter what's happening in in your life to be there for them, to help them. That's cool. Thank you. And the odds of the same Jackson being in both of your stories is pretty high, it sounds like. All right, Lincoln, you're up.
Well, I was just thinking like the truest of friends will go through everything and anything with you and for you. Um, they'll stand by you through wind and rain and snow and hail and etc. They will, and it doesn't matter again what you look like, um, what religion you have, political opinions you have. It's just you're it doesn't matter because you're friends.
Absolutely. I want to, I guess, conclude this or sum everything up. I think it's so important for us to be friends with people, to love those around us, especially people that might be going through a hard time. I hope that we can all see when our friends are changing or when something is going on in their life, that we can reach out to them and just let them know we're here. That would have been such a huge difference, I think, for Leon at that time to have someone just say, I know what you're going through is so hard. I love you. I'm still your friend. Even though the circumstances of our lives are pulling us apart, I'm really glad you're my friend. Something like that could have gone such a long way. I know I'm an old guy, but my best friends in life still, most of them still are from when I was a teenager. When I go back to my hometown and see some of my best friends from growing up, those are still the closest relationships. So I hope that you guys will um, put in effort to create those relationships so that you can be there for them. So not only do you have a friend that's standing in rain and wind and snow, like Lincoln was saying, but you can be the friend that's standing there with them and supporting them. It's so important for us to have those kind of relationships. I think that could have made a lot of things different for Leon. And so next, the next thought, and we'll go through this one a little bit quicker so that we can get to all of your ideas and the inspiration and insights that you have. But I loved the theme of family throughout this story. You could tell 100% that Lieb's family is of most importance to him. I love this part where they're doing another roundup. I didn't love the roundup part. That is sad to me and really frustrating. But when it starts to happen, he has a choice. He's with his friends Yosel and Sam, and he says, I thought about going with them and returning to our narrow hiding place in the rafters of the shed. And that reminds me back of the story with his mom coming in and seeing them and leaving the teapot at the bottom of the barn and then climbing up into the rafters and that whole episode, which would have been a struggle, but cool that his mom was there with him. Anyway, returning to our narrow hiding spot in the rafters of the shed, but something stopped me. I'm not sure why I felt the pull so strongly, but I knew I had to be with my mother. She and I had been through so much together. Um, Typo. She was my strength and I was hers. So I told Yosel and Sam, I'm going to try something else. And then in the story, he goes and he finds his mother and he has to kind of sneak to get into her line with her and to go with her. And he eventually does. But what made Leon choose to stay with his mother instead of going with his friends? One, and then what does that tell us about his relationship with her? Arya, go ahead.
I think that Leon was probably the kind of friend, like the kind of true friend that we're talking about, and that he probably had a really strong relationship with his mom. And we talked a lot about the importance of having true friends, but the importance of having a family and having strong connections with your family, like family's even more important than that, I think, because they're your eternal friends. And so I think Leon made a really wise decision, even though it meant that it would probably mean even tougher times ahead. He knew that between his friends and his mom, that he knew what decision to make.
That's awesome. And I think that the distinction there is so appropriate and important to make, that friends, as we see in this story, could come and go. It's important for us to be a good friend, for us to show love and support for our friends, to build those relationships. But even more important is the relationships we have with our family. And in this case, the relationships he had with his family are truly what built him up. They were truly his rock that he could lean on and stand on through his hard times and gave him the hope. Just when he was in the concentration camp, being able to go sneak to see his dad and his brother sometime or his mom, even though it was just for a brief second, just the energy and the hope and the happiness that gave him for that period of time to keep pushing on, to keep fighting. I think that's so remarkable. Harrison, go ahead.
I just agree with Arya. I think that our families are gonna be the best friends we're gonna ever have. It just like And I think that we take that for granted sometimes. Like, sorry, I'm just gonna like, you know how like we take for granted like electricity and like indoor plumbing, but how those things were like such a shock and such like a gift for him. It's kind of what we do with our family. Like, um, because we know that they'll stand by us, we're not as careful with them as we are with our friends. Uh, but they are like the biggest blessing we can have.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important insight to make too, right? We have electricity all around us. We take in an indoor plumbing, right? Um, we expect it to just be there. And I think that's often how we treat our family. And I think that in most cases is probably okay, right? I mean, I think I'm a little bit different around people who are not my family. They see the true me and I mean, they love me still, right? At least I hope they do. Where's Brock? But um, I think that that's such an important thing to remember. But at the same time, in remembering that, to not take it for granted, to um, not do things that would burn those bridges or hurt those relationships, because those truly are the most supportive, the most loving, the best, most important relationships we can have. Yeah, absolutely. Justice, go ahead.
One thing I got to thinking about, and they're talking about in this last 3 minutes probably, Matt, just to think about what would happen to him if he went with his friends, not went to go with his mom. Like, what would happen? Would he like? He probably wouldn't even be talking about this. Like, I'd probably get caught or something, you know? Just to think about what would happen if you changed that one thing. That's all.
He would have died. The Germans were very thorough when they liquidated the ghettos. If they checked every building, they checked everywhere, he would have been dead.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's probably accurate. And I think one important part of this is, I mean, he had the thought. It worked before. Hiding in those rafters worked before. It can work again. We can just stay up there until the coast is clear and we can come out. I love the part that he fit into his story here. Said, but something stopped me. I'm not sure why I felt the pull so strongly, but I knew I had to be with my mother. I mean, feel like that is God speaking to him saying, go. You need to be with your mom. And I think it's an important part of the story that he listened. I think we all feel that at times, right? Throughout our life, sometimes we'll just receive that. Maybe it's a still small voice, or we'll receive a prompting. Hey, go do this. Go do that. Go check on your sister in the next room. Go, whatever it is, we need to listen to that so that we don't have to find out what if he went with his friends. I think it's a really important thing to do. And as we read these stories, there's so many turns through these stories of what if, right? And we'll talk in a minute about what if uh, Leon's dad didn't know how to pick a lock. Like, what if this happened? What if that happened? The whole course of the story would change. And I think it's important that we always keep in tune with God so that he can speak to us, so that we can feel that something that stops us, the strong pull to go do something. I think that's such an important thing. Just kind of concluding this, I think for me, strong family bonds help us endure challenges, overcome mistakes. Those are the people that are going to be there no matter what, thick or thin. Just when life gets tough, they are the people who we really can go to. I hope that we all recognize that the small acts, little things, whether we're listening, forgiving, helping, strengthening, if our sisters, and I'll say brothers argue too. I know that a few of you have said my little sisters, but little brothers and older brothers argue too. It's not a gender thing. But when our siblings are arguing, we can go in and be the peacemaker, right? We can be the person that's offering to do the dishes. We can be the person that is there helping them, helping do the chores around the house, whatever it is. Those small things go such a long way. I hope that we can all look at this and just read this story and see how much Leon's family meant to him and the hope and strength that they gave him, and that we can use that to hug our siblings, maybe if we're not hugging them at all. Hug them more, love them more, and be more supportive of the things that they're doing so that we can be their rock, their anchor, their um, support, whatever it is we want to call it. But our families are so important. I hope we don't take them for granted. When I read stories like this, it makes me remember how grateful I am for my siblings, for my wife, for my kids, and just the strength that they give me in my day-to-day life. I hope we can all remember that. All right, Oscar Schindler. So I'll just open it up. We can talk about Oscar Schindler. We can talk about a few of my favorite things. I'll just open it up, whatever you guys want to talk about. What stood out to you? Oscar Schindler, good, bad, right guy, bad guy, but the right one for the job, or anything that stood out to you as you read this last week? Go ahead. Braden, yeah, it's yours.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to point out is after looking at Oscar Schindler's past life, what he did before, it was not ideal. I don't want to. I'm gonna just go out and say that it was definitely not good. But I think that when it came to what he did, I think that what he did in the past really built him up for what he was doing during the Holocaust.
Yeah. And explain a little bit more. In what way do you think?
I feel like when it comes to, I mean, he was a Nazi, yes, but he was one that he really looked at the people who they were, not what they were. It wasn't necessarily, oh, they're a Jew, they're a dirty like all the other people were saying, but it was these people have valuable talents, valuable skills that they've developed, and I can use them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting some of the things that were maybe weak parts of his character, right? He drank a lot. He had a lot of affairs. So it didn't matter to him if he was married or not. He was going to go out and look for interested women that might like him back. I don't know. But he didn't have this moral compass when it came to a lot of those things. But when he was in the Nazi party, having all of those attributes actually helped him gain favor with a lot of the German guards, right? So he was having them over to drink and other things. Like it helped him become who he was within the Nazi party, within this area of Poland, so that people would sort of look the other way, even when they may have thought something was going on, something maybe against the rules was going on. It was that Schindler. We'll just let it be. So, I mean, I think all of these character traits that gave him problems before the war, during the war, helped him gain the status he needed in order to help the other people. Because then when the war is over, all of those bad things come back to haunt him for the rest of his life. It just, for that period of time, he was the right person to do this right thing. And maybe I'm already preempting some of the comments. So I'll jump to those. Finn, go ahead.
I think, I mean, I know he wasn't pretty great in his life before, like Braden said, but I think he changed, and what he did, like his heavy drinking afterwards, I think that was just from habit, and like it was hard to get out of. But I do think he changed and started caring for the people more, and I also think that he was prepared for the job a little bit because, yeah, like you said, because of his drinking and stuff, the Nazis overlooked a lot of what he was doing. Like, Yeah, I just think he wasn't a great guy, but he was the right one for the job in that instance.
Yeah. And he became great in a way, in the way of helping other people and loving them and risking so much. I mean, he could have been a millionaire, right? But he chose to spend his money helping his people that he grew to love. That is really remarkable to me. Harrison, go ahead.
So I just um I thought it was interesting, like how much of a businessman he was. A lot of the Germans, like this was a terrible time for them because they were humiliated by the war, the older like generals and stuff, and then these young men, the ones that are like 20 years old during the war, um, they their entire lives they were told how much they were like unfairly treated and all these things. And it was like, so it was super easy to see how they brought into it. But Oscar Schindler, like, he wasn't a person who was willing to just listen without getting all the facts. He was like a detective. He just like that was his mindset. Um, and that's not always a good mindset. That's like some of the worst people have mindsets like that. Even like Hitler probably did. Um, but it's how he used it that was good. Uh, I also wanted to say like you're right that how much Lieb like how lucky he was. Like there was I think it was in chapter 7 where he was like it came down to just being lucky. Like you were lucky they didn't just randomly attack you. You're lucky you didn't just get randomly shot. Um, and wasn't there something like 6 million Jews that were killed or something? That could be too many, but like it just this insane amount. And it just like it's crazy that he was able to get through this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Luck, totally luck. Having being in the right place, the right time, the right circumstances. I mean, we can look in this story and in this story of Stefania, right? I mean, hundreds of different things that if they would have gone any other way would have resulted in them being found out and probably killed. I mean, the same in this story. There's so many twists and turns that if it would have gone any other way, he would be one of those millions of people. It's truly remarkable and sad that they had to go through this. And one of the reasons we study this is so that it doesn't happen again, so that we can be the people that are the helpers or we can figure out things out so that we don't relive this history again in the future. Arya, go ahead.
Back to the topic of Oscar Schindler.
Schindler.
I wonder, I wonder if maybe his really terrible habits and history helped him to helped him to stay off some of the Nazis' radar and keep some of the Nazis from becoming suspicious. Like, I wonder why this guy is taking so many Jews to his factory. Because he was maybe ethically, maybe not the most morally sound person, that helped him to be a hero and have the opportunity and give all these Jews the opportunity to stay alive.
I think you're right. I think that he was very good at being sneaky. I mean, he was employed when he was not a German per se. I mean, he was living in the Sudetenland and he was employed by the Germans as a spy in that area. So he already knew sort of the ways of being crooked, right? kind of hiding the truth. So I think in this case, it could be easy for someone like him to say, well, the Jews are free. I don't have to pay them anything. So from the businessman standpoint, I've trained all of these Jewish workers how to operate my machines expertly. They're free. So I want to use them to work in my factory. I need them to work in my factory. So I think he could come up with a pretty credible story of why he needs them. And it's interesting to me that Leon, and we'll learn more about his job. I mean, he had to stand on a box in order to operate his machine. There's no way that that person is the expert to run the machine when they're not even tall enough to operate it, right? Like, but yet somehow he can use his crooked ways and his trick, I don't know, all of the stuff that Ari was just talking about. He can use it to convince other people, like, yeah, I need this guy. He is the person that needs to run that machine. I need him. And he saved them and loves them, and they love him back. And just the amount of loyalty that they had for him for the rest of his life, taking care of him, paying for surgeries, paying for all sorts of things to keep him happy and comfortable. It really is remarkable the amount of love and loyalty that those people all had for each other, going on beyond the war. Owen, go ahead.
Oscar Schindler, I didn't know all the stuff about his past, but when I did, I don't know, it kind of just killed the awesomeness of him for a moment. But now that I think about it, most heroes in World War II aren't great. And like Stefania lied and went, like, people broke the law to hide Jews. The soldiers that stormed Normandy were drinking and swearing, and they weren't the best of people either. It's very hard to find like a World War II hero, kind of like the Ten Booms, like that are just so, that have that moral compass and still manage to find ways to help others. But I think we can still appreciate them for what they did.
Absolutely. It's so important to recognize that we don't make these imperfect people become sort of, I don't know. I don't want to compare them to the Savior, but that we don't exalt them beyond really what they should be. I think it's important for us to recognize their imperfections like this. But I think we can also learn so much from the courage, from the bravery, from the different aspects of their personalities, that we can just take a little bit of who they are and try and put it inside of us, right? Take this piece from Oscar Schindler, this piece from Stefania, this piece from Helmut Hubner, this piece from Sophie Scholl, like, and use those little bits and pieces of them to help inspire us to use their example to be better, to be hopefully that hero that has the moral compass, that's making the right choices for the right reasons and doing all those things. But I really appreciate that insight. I think it's important to recognize the imperfections as much as it is to recognize the really awesome things that they do, because we can learn from both sides of it. And I don't think it takes anything away from Oscar Schindler to talk about his negative things in his past, because what he did was truly remarkable. He could have done so many other things, but chose to save that many people. It's really, really awesome. Thanks, Owen. Thank you for that. Justice, last comment, and then we'll close for the day.
And I can skip if you need. What I was going to say is kind of long, but it's fine.
Go ahead.
One thing I was thinking about, I just got to thinking about like earlier today, is he saved 1,200 Jews, but he kind of spied. And, I don't know. It's like, is he a hero? But is he a hero? Thing. Just a thing that got me thinking, and I would say he's a hero. I mean, but could he have killed more people because he spied? That's just, I don't know. I think it's a good question, So yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah. I think those things are important to think about. It's important. I mean, yeah, what did he do? Did he help more people than he hurt? Like, I think that those things are interesting and important things to think about. I think one of the things that I have really enjoyed about Oskar Schindler is I think that maybe he began this path as a businessman thinking free labor. I could make so much more money if I don't have to pay my employees, right? But then saw how they were being treated, saw the good people that they were, and had that change of heart and started to take care of them, started to feed them more, started to give them clothes, started to make sure that there was a doctor or a nurse there that could help them with the ailments they were going through. People who were feeling sick, he would cover up for them so that the people in the concentration camp wouldn't know that they were too sick. They would be sick and they would go to work and they would still be like, he started loving them. I think that what's remarkable for me is that someone who had been living such a life that to me is not correct, had been making a lot of choices. He had a change of heart and truly changed for the better and helped other people. I think that to me is the most remarkable thing about Oskar Schindler, is that he was going down a path. I think he had this change of heart and really wanted to help, wanted to do what he could to save those people, and did, and gave and paid the price for it. Like, he had so much money he could have had that he gave away to keep these people having food, and the amount of effort he had to put into hiding, buying enough flour to feed them, buying the potatoes to feed them. Like, he had to do so many things so secretly to make it happen. It really is, he could have picked so many other ways to live his life and to just kind of wash his hands of it and say it's not my problem, right? But he didn't. He saved them. I think I'm really grateful for the example that he set. I'm grateful for the idea of no matter how bad we are, no matter what choices we've made in the past, we can change. If we've been a poor friend or a poor sibling in the past, we can change. We can repent. We can become better. We can try and fix it. So even if Oskar Schindler hurt his people by being a spy, I think at some point he realized the error of at least that error and corrected it and started to try and help people and work for good. I think it's such a remarkable story of a change of heart. I hope that we can recognize that in ourselves, that we can help other people around us and recognize that everything he did was not perfect, that a lot of things he did was crooked and wrong. But he changed and he started helping people. So can we. We're never so far gone that we can't change and work on ourselves and be better. I'm grateful for that. All right. So for next week, remember, no class. In 2 weeks, I'm going to release the homework today, but we'll talk about it in class in 2 weeks. We'll finish this book, The Boy on the Wooden Box. We'll start Beyond Courage, where we start reading about short stories and anecdotes of the Jewish resistance during the Holocaust. And the supplemental content will follow closely the things that we're reading. Thanks, everybody, for everything you're posting on the Mighty Networks app. I really enjoy reading the insights and comments that you have. Thank you for being prepared for our discussion today. I've felt uplifted, and I don't know, I love coming to this class and talking about these things with you guys. It really makes my days and weeks go better, and I feel inspired by you to be better. And I hope that we can all take the lessons that we're learning and implement them into our lives and help people around us be happier and find more peace and joy too. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy your week off. Yeah, I'm excited to see you in a couple of weeks. See you next time.
Thank you.